Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. And just delighted that so many of you could come out on this very rainy night. And here we are in this beautiful sanctuary celebrating Shabbat. I'm going to call on the Friedman, to the Friedmans to come forward and light the Shabbat candles. Jack and Amy Friedlander, thank you.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, hallelujah, who gathers us with the mitzvah, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lechad likneh shel Shabbat.
Amen. Let us join in prayer on page 127. These are the days, or there are days, excuse me. Together, there are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure gain by what we do not, there are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others, but on Shabbat we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Together, we offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. And we continue now with the beautiful Dodilim, that my beloved is mine, v'ani lo, and I am my beloved. From the Song of Songs, page 129.
Please join with me.
beautiful rendition from Shir Shirim, the Song of Songs. We continue now with Lachadudi, Come My Beloved, to greet the bride of Shabbat that we accept with wholeheartedness and engulfed in its spirit. Page 138, we'll chant the first two lines, and then we'll rise and face the door as symbolically welcoming the Ruach of Shabbat into our sanctuary on page 139 at the bottom, verses 1, 2, and 9.
Lechai doidi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechai doidi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechai doidi. Lechadodi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamur vezachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu ha'muchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, L'Shemu tiferet ve'litila. Lechadodi, lechadodi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Ligrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'maksheva tikla. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emundei am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi ligrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
You may be seated. We're going to continue now with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144, followed by the Baruch Hu on page 146.
Israel,
rise for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship, page 146.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated. Let us join in worship, page 147, in the middle of the page. We join in prayer. O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. Oh, let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. And let us continue now in worship, page 151. And just as we acknowledge God's presence as the ultimate force of nature and of being, there is a connection to that and the life that guides us vis-a-vis the Torah, that there is a relationship, we believe, that we have faith that our acts and how we conduct ourselves must be in parallel to the beauty of creation. Let us join in prayer, the top of page 151, the prelude to the Shema Yisrael. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear together, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. This prayer reflects the attitude of our great sages, that it was never their intellect that revealed the deeper truths of the Torah, but rather that was God's gift to humankind. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please rise for the Shema, page 152 and 153.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
We continue with the V'ahavta, page 154. You may be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשקתם לעוד הידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
And let us join in the prelude to the Mi Chamocha, page 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Mi Chamocha, page 158.
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar bakodesh, nor hatehilot osefele, nor hatehilot osefele, malechutecha Ra'u vanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zeili anu ve'amaru Adonai imloch Adonai imloch le'olam
ונאמר כי יפדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל Yisrael. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Please rise for the Tefillah, page 164, Adonai Sifatai Tiftach.
Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Hagel, Hagedol, Hagibor, V'Nohora, Elyon, Gomei Chasadim Tovim, V'Gonei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevii Geula V'Bnei Bneihem, L'man Shemo Me'ahava, Melech Ozer, U'Moshiach U'Mogen, Baruch Magen Avraham, Vaitzrat Zerah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רע להושיע.
משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם.
מקקי חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופאי חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומחיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מחמות בגבורות ומדום מלוך, מלך ממית ומחיי ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
And we continue silently from page 172 through page 180, and you may be seated. Let us conclude our silent meditations with this beautiful prayer at the top of page 181. Create a pure heart within me. Let my soul wake up in your light. Open me to your presence. Flood me with your Holy Spirit. There I will stand and sing out the power of your forgiveness. I will teach your love to the lonely. The lost will find their way home. Adonai, open up my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. We continue now with the beautiful Shalom Rav, page 178.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom v'to beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol et ubakosha b'shlomecha.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. William Shakespeare, in his play Romeo and Juliet, wrote, quote, "A rose by any other name would still smell as sweet." This week's Parsha, Vayechi, would not necessarily agree with that assessment, because we learn in this week's Parsha that our identity, our Jewish identity, is not the equivalent of our secular names. My birth name is Edward Sandin Boraz. At my Brit Milah, my parents gave me the name Yitzchak Shmuel ben Mordechai V'chana. When Rabbi and President of the Hebrew Union College, Fred Gottschalk, Alav HaShalom, gave me my smicha, my ordination, as a rabbi, I added one additional name, the name of Jacob, because through my journey to the rabbinate, I identified with Jacob's struggles. So when I became a rabbi in 1993, my name once again was changed to Rav Yitzchak Shmuel Yaakov ben Rav Mordechai V'chana. If I ever decide to use any of my English names, a dear friend goes by the name Rabbi Andy, I would prefer to be Rabbi Jacob, but somehow I'd prefer simply Rabbi. Each of these names reflect a particular identity. And this brings us to Joseph's story in this week's Parsha. Previously, we have learned that Joseph ascends the throne as the second in command of perhaps the most powerful country at that time, Egypt. Pharaoh gives him a new name as well as an Egyptian wife. His Egyptian name is Tzafnat Paranea. But in this week's Parsha, Vayechi, and he lived, Jacob's life is coming to an end. After writing himself on his deathbed, the text describes the following: Vayikra livno Yosef, vayomer lo, im na matzati chen be'einecha, simna yadcha tachat yarechi, v'asita imadi chesed ve'emet, al na tikburenu b'Mitzrayim, v'shachafti im avotai unasatani mimitzrayim, ukvartani b'gvuratam, vayomar Anochi e'aseh chidvarecha, vayomer Hishava ali, vayishava lo, vayishtachu Yisrael arosh hamita. And he called to his son Joseph. And Jacob said to him, if I have found favor in your eyes, place your hand under my thigh and do for me an act of loving kindness and truth. Please do not bury me here in Egypt. Let me instead lay with my fathers, with my ancestors. Carry me from Egypt, and you will bury me in their grave. And he, Joseph, stated, I will do according to your word. And Jacob said, swear unto me. And Joseph swore unto him. And Jacob prostrated himself, bowed at the top of his bed. This interaction is detailed and strained. The father prefaces this as a request, if I shall find favor in your eyes. And after Joseph promises to do so, his father makes him swear, which Joseph does. And then the text concludes that the father bowed to his son. If Jacob and Joseph had a bond of family trust and loving kindness, why does Jacob speak to his son as if he is beholding to him? Is the text teaching that Joseph's love of his father was not up to the standards of the fifth commandment, kabed et avicha v'et imecha, honor your father and your mother? Rashi addresses these concerns. Jacob realizes that Joseph is the only one who has the power to fulfill his father's wishes. Moreover, Jacob feared that if this were a simple promise, Pharaoh might not permit his second in command to leave, but instead insist on a burial in Egypt so that Joseph could continue his work uninterrupted by travel. By forcing an oath on Joseph, Joseph would be in a stronger position for Pharaoh to grant his request, which he later does. And concerning the bowing, the prostrating himself before his son, it references Joseph's early dreams in which he saw his entire family prostrating themselves before him. These comments address the reality of the Jew being a stranger in a strange land. That phrase, stranger in a strange land, can be found in Exodus chapter 2, verse 22. Joseph's love for his father and his father's love for him, as described by Rashi, is a tzur, a rock. Our framework is slightly different from Rashi, and this causes us to re-examine Shakespeare's observation that a name does not change the essence of a thing, especially when it comes to love. Here, Joseph has a dual identity. One is Egyptian. When he is appointed second in command, he takes on without objection the Egyptian name, and he dresses accordingly. He wears the ring of Pharaoh, which means that his word is nearly the equivalent of binding law upon the Egyptian people. He marries an Egyptian woman, a daughter of a high Egyptian priest, and has 2 sons. However it is that we want to characterize Joseph, even as a true tzaddik, for he prevented starvation of the world, all of these things change a person. Even though there is no biblical Hebrew word for identity, Joseph has 2. One is an Egyptian, The other is that of our ancestors, a Hebrew. He is a Jew. His beloved Father understands this reality and thus speaks to him on two levels, as his son and as the second most powerful man in Egypt, if not the world at that time. Joseph swears, and Jacob's bowing to him acknowledge Joseph's position. And yet at the same time, the text refers to him as Yosef, not Safneit Parnea. There is a father-son intimacy in Joseph tending to his father, placing his hand under his thigh at his father's request and stating, "I will do according to your word." And when his father asks him to swear, Joseph does so. The text is thus acknowledging in a very subtle and yet very real way Joseph's duality. Safnat Parnea is not the same as Yosef. A rose by the name of Safnat Parnea would not smell as sweet if the same rose was named Yosef. And what does this mean for us as Jews? I believe that being Jewish in America requires two identities: one Jewish and the Jew living in a predominantly secular, Christian, democratic society. While we are Jewish, we act differently to the outside world than we do Jewishly with one another. And when the scales of our identity, of our Jewish identity, tips towards this secular world, we call that assimilation. When it tips towards our Jewish neshama, our Jewish heart, we call that our Hebrew name. Edward Sandon Boraz carries with it these challenges of a stranger in a strange land, a country that I love and hold dear. Yet this world, this America, remains different from the world of Rav Yitzchak Shmuel Yaakov ben Mordechai Vachana, a world I was raised in and a world that I inhabit each time I set foot in my home and when I enter this sacred space. And I believe it is the same for each of us here tonight and on Zoom on our Shabbat Kodesh, our holy Sabbath. We need Sha'arei Shamayim, a place on earth where we can be fully Jewish without the need to compromise or assimilate, to feel a part of something greater than ourselves because we are great when we are here in Sha'arei Shamayim. We each have a Hebrew name, a Jewish identity, and a Jewish American identity. My hope and my prayer is that may it come to pass that one day there will be a unity between all that our Hebrew name symbolizes and the Jewish world on the one hand. A Jewish world that forges the deepest bond to our faith, our history, so rich in personal, cultural, and ancestral meaning. May that be bonded to the world that we live in, a world similar to the one Joseph lived in, where each of us contributes so much of our Jewish faith and values to the greater good, to make America and the world a better place for all. When this unity of our identities is fully realized, then William Shakespeare's observation in Romeo and Juliet, the experience of true love, will be fully realized, and that a Jew by any other name would still smell as sweet. Amen. We're going to continue now with the Kiddush and Motzi. That can be found on page 123. The challah for this evening was furnished by Callie, who unfortunately could not be with us this evening. So we will recite the Motzi and the Kiddush in her honor. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, k'shabbat kadsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchatanu, zikaron le'maaseh bereishit, Yom Techilah Levitraye Kodesh Zeker Yitziat Mitzrayim Kivanu Vachata Kiyadanu Kidashta Min Kohanim V'Shabbat Kodshecha V'Hava Uvratzon Baruch atah Adonai Mihadesh v'Shabbat. Amen.
Let's join in the Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
You may be seated. Before continuing our service with the Misha Berach prayer on page 371, we want to welcome all, so many people from who are with us on Zoom this evening. Harold and Emily Fink, Shirley, James, Ann Zelniker, Jonathan Fratkin, Maud, Robin Cardinale, Maggie, Heidi Slavinsky, Joseph Metz, Marion Birkin, Diane and Richard Frank, Sharon Sokol, Mel and Odette Sternberg, Harvey Gandler, and someone mysteriously named SMZQ. So we want to welcome you all here. It's wonderful to have you here, and just imagine how full our congregation is when we think of these individuals who are present through the miracle of technology, and all of you who are here this evening. Let us turn now to page 371 for the Misha Berach. Begin by chanting the first verse, and we'll pause to recite the names of those in need of spiritual and physical healing.
Please join with me. Misha Berach to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
And we pray for the healing of Rhoda Bennett, Paul Bradley, Harold H. Fink, Charmaine Mosier, Bruce Mosier, Bettina Prager, Mark Schoenfeld, Mark Siegel, Glory Weisberg, Valerie Simmerman, Julie Stein, David Cherniak, Harry Appleman, Sandy Self, Phyllis Feibelman, and Richard Rose. Now turn to the people on Zoom, and please recite the names of those in need of healing.
Susan, Jennifer Sundberg,
Lawson Metz,
Members of the congregation, thank you. Thank you. And Duncan Wheeler.
I'll just roll them.
Please join with me. Mi sheberach imortenu mikor habracha lavortenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please rise for the Alenu on page 586.
Alleluia, Shabbat, Ladon, Hapol, Latet, Gedula, Leotzebreshim, Shelo, Asanu, Kegoye, Haratzot, Shelo, Samanu, Kamishpekot, Hadama, Shelo, Sam, Kekenu, Chayen, Vigorolenu, Kekol Hamonam, Vanaknu Korim, Umishtakavi
You may be seated. This week, we observe the yard sites of Betty Zimmerman Cohn, Maria Etheridge, Sarah Bell Reese, Etta Mae Friedman, Carol Copperman, Sylvia Schneider-Grossman, Vera Heinrich, Rebecca Schulman, Max Fratkin, Gilbert Metz, and Frances Louise Metz. Is there anyone in the congregation observing a yard site who they wish to remember at this time? We turn now again to the people who are on Zoom. Let us join in the recitation of the Kaddish. We all rise, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, bi'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who establisheth peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. We have two people who are going to furnish us with some announcements this evening, David Menacor and our president, Gil Layden.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Menaker, and my wife and I are going to assist the temple with running a food drive. We're going to make use of an organization in Mobile, Feeding the Gulf Coast. I visited them this week, and it's a very impressive operation. They're very big and efficient, and they can move a lot of food, and I know they can help a lot of people. And in preparation for speaking to you, I gave some thought to what it means for the temple to have such an initiative. And I only recently learned something about a famous artist that I want to share with you. Andy Warhol's well known for 20 paintings of a Campbell's soup can. You might have seen it or heard about it. I got to admit, when I first learned that, such a famous artist made a lot of money selling pictures of Campbell's soup cans, I thought there was some irony in it, like, is that really art? And I thought it was there was a capitalistic kind of comment in there or some observation, but I wasn't sophisticated enough at the time to understand it, nor am I going to attempt that now. In fact, I learned that as a young man, he immigrated to the United States with his family. And there was so much food insecurity and poverty when he grew up that his mother, I want to say perfected, but certainly consistently worked on a science of mixing ketchup and boiling water with salt and pepper to make soup to feed her family, including young Andy. And because of that, the first time he had Campbell's soup from a can, It was a source of comfort. It was a high art in tomato soup to him. It meant something so much more than what I assumed as a young man learning about the high dollar sale of a picture of a can of soup. You know, it didn't mean anything to me. Today, it really does mean something to me. And so I like this anecdote about Andy Warhol so much because it's a great example of how resilience can come from great adversity. And when we as a community serve the greater community of Mobile by collecting food and helping distribute it, you know, we might be giving relief from, you know, some difficulty from poverty, but there's, to me, a little bit of hope in that each of these cans can represent a chance for someone to develop some of that, resilience in life. And one day, maybe I'll buy a painting of a Walmart green beans can in the future as a result, because someone went from a difficult circumstance to being an icon. I like to think that really happy spin on things is possible, but for right now, what we're going to do is get practical about how to assist the community at this time of year. So right now, you might notice the boxes in the back there. We've got some set up, and we will encourage all of you to bring food items. Like, you know, how many times will you really be at the grocery store in the next month, right? One or two times a week. Just grab an extra something. Think practically, it's got to have a shelf life, mostly boxed and bagged and canned things. We've already delivered 20 cans of canned chicken, and tonight we already have donations. As you can see, there's some food items in the boxes right now. I want to encourage that if convenience, and I know everybody likes the idea of this, but if convenience gets in the way during the next 2 weeks, we want you to call the temple and let us know if you have cans that we can pick up from you. Our first choice is that you deliver it because we can move more product that way and make a bigger difference. But if you have it at home and you're, you know, for those of you on Zoom, if your reasons for being on Zoom tonight prevent you from wanting to come to the temple to drop it off, we'll come to you. We can do a contactless pickup. Pick it right up off your porch and wave through the window, or we can chat, whatever you want. But the last thing about that is that if you find it inconvenient or would just prefer instead to donate financially, in the next week, you're going to see on our website and through email distribution, a QR code that you can scan with your phone to make a financial donation to Feeding the Gulf Coast that would supplement the effort we're going to make to provide food. So with that, thanks for your attention, and let's all do some good, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, David, for that. One thing that became readily apparent to me when I met with David and Danette and Alice the other day is that David and Danette both have not only the heart, but the mind to see this through, and we're really excited about this project. Thank you so much for that, David. So it's just a few other announcements. The temple office will be closed next Friday, the 24th, and Friday, the 31st. So if you have any scheduled donation drop-off needs, you need to schedule those with Alex for other days. Be sure to mark your calendar for January the 13th through the 30th for the Mobile Jewish Film Festival. So see your December bulletin for further details. We're also looking for a photographer for various events so we can make sure we can publicize those things. And also, we're going to have a project where we're interested in collecting some of your favorite photographs you may have at home at the temple that you may be willing to share. So that's all I have for my announcement. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Mr. President. However, there will be, though the temple office will be closed, I just want to put a footnote, there will be services December 24th, as well as December 31st. I can promise some champagne for those of you who will make it here on December 31st. However, there will not be, normally the first Shabbat of the month, we have Shabbat morning services. Because it's New Year's Day, we are going to push it back 1 week. We normally have services once a month on Shabbat morning. So we think it would be better to postpone and do the Shabbat morning service the following Shabbat. But there will be services December 24th and December 31st. I want to thank Molly once again, our cantor, for just beautifully leading us in worship and prayer. Your Kiddush, traditional or wild, is just amazing. Thank you so much for that. We want to thank Callie for for baking the challah, though she couldn't be with us this evening, and of course our technical wizard, Andy. We want to thank you so much once again for coming and setting all of this up and making our services available to those who could not be with us this evening. Thank you so much. We're going to conclude our service with Hashkivenu, done in a round, I believe. You're going to teach us a little bit?
We can try it.
Oh, no. This is a singing congregation. It's going to be good.
If everyone will sing, then we can try it out. If you've been here a little bit, then you're fairly familiar. I'm going to move this camera. I'm going to make Andy mad for a second. Now, whether or not I can play and round, probably not. But
By the way, the Hashkivenu lyric can be found on page 160. And in the transliteration, it's the first 2 lines of the transliteration, or in the Hebrew, the first 2 lines, page 160.
so let's just learn the melody first, in case it's unfamiliar. It's a simplistic one, and it really, I believe, is just the first line or 2 of the Hashkivenu in the prayer book. So it's Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu LaShalom V'Hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. And we're just going to repeat it over and over and over again. And so the way we'll work it out is we'll first sing it all together a few times. I'll come in with a little bit of the later verse, and then we will try it as a round. So the way it'll work is you'll just have to split yourselves. I don't quite know how to split you, but whoever wants to start can start. Let's have at least 3, maybe with me. And then the rest will follow Rabbi.
You want to have the majority. I'm familiar with it, but I've never done this, so this will be a first for me as well.
And so when we round it, the group A will start with Hashkivenu Adonai. And as soon as we sing that part, the second group will come in with Hashkivenu Adonai. And then you'll just continue to sing the melody that you've just learned. So I may start playing and then stop playing because obviously I'm not a pianist. But just to give us a little sense of kind of the chord progression of where it goes. So we have a little. And everyone can join in. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu LaShalom V'Hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim.
Let's do that with
have our little section here. We have. And we're gonna try this again. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hanidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hanidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hanidenu shomreinu l'chaim.
We'll work on that. It's a work in
We'll keep
progress.
practicing.
We'll work on it. Shabbat shalom to everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Molly.